With Carolina's roster now seemingly complete, do the Tar Heels have all the parts they need, or are there still holes in the game?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, June 12th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listener watch to get your Thursday going the right way. Special shout out to all the everydayers here with us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders. Glad you're all here. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Joining us on the show today, it's Thursday. It's our guy, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes, in a spiffy looking orange polo today. That's one of their game shirts, folks. Man, that orange and black looks good to me as a Buffalo. So love that. Coach Rob is a 2-decade veteran of Carolina Basketball School, North Carolina's summer basketball camp, which is coming up in, as you're listening to watching this today, 8 days from now. So Coach will be taking off next week. And we'll do a little preview show for that next week and then have great content while he's there seeing the guys in person. Speaking of which, Carolina Basketball School, a book written by our guy, Coach Rob. You need to get your copy right now. If you're going to camp, Coach will have some there with him and you can pick it up. Man, really, really good stuff detailing all his years at camp, history, stories, and drills. Check it out today, or you can get it on Amazon, and that works too. All right. Coming up on the show today, we want to talk about, now that it's about 10 days since Luka Bogavac committed to Carolina, how are we feeling about the roster? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Where are the holes? All of that kind of stuff. Then we'll turn our attention to position battles. What are the position battles we're looking forward to? Where will things be most hotly contested? And we also want to think about, at the same time, what do we feel right now is the most firm starting spot? If the season started today, who is a guaranteed, no doubt starter for this lineup? And then we're going to wrap today's show looking at the rule changes that the NCAA announced on Tuesday of this week. Will it change things and speed up all those timeouts at the end of games? And continuation is coming to college basketball. We'll talk about if we like that. Coach is already shaking his head, and you know that it's a no-go for both of us. All right, Coach. Let's start with the Luka Bogavac commitment seemingly rounding out Carolina's roster. Coach, let's put a bit of a caveat on this thing right out of the gate. There's still behind the scenes, a whole bunch of paperwork to get this young man to Chapel Hill, to America, and being part of this roster. So I guess before we talk about how we're feeling about the roster, how much does it put Carolina behind the 8 ball the longer it takes him to get to campus?
Yeah, I think it's this is the time where you start to build the camaraderie. Obviously, you want to get your system into, but this is where the chemistry starts. So you have somebody who you feel like is going to be a huge piece to the puzzle, and if he's not there, who's getting the reps at that position right now? And then all of a sudden he's going to upset the apple cart when he gets back, because then all of a sudden he's thrown into that position and he won't know the drills. He won't know the system, and it's going to have to start all over again. So I think it's a big deal. And I think the longer it takes for him to get here, and it sounds like it's going to be a little while before he does get here. But I don't think it's the end of the world either. I think there's still a lot of time before first game. He'll be able to get caught up, but it's the chemistry, it's the relationship part of it that I think it just drags a little bit.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of that is formed at camp. And so obviously he'll be missing that. Hopefully, he can get there in time for the beach trip that the guys have taken now. I guess this will be the 3rd year in a row. Yeah. 2023 summer was the first one of those. Okay, Coach. So assuming Luka gets there and he's part of the roster and all that, with where things with the addition of Luka Bogavac, how are you feeling about the roster?
You never get exactly everybody that you want to get when you're building the roster. Sometimes you end up with somebody better. And sometimes you have the best recruiting class in the nation and you still don't win a championship.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not sure that's happened anywhere close to Carolina, of course. You still want talent. The number one factor in winning and losing games is talent. And do they have talent? Yes. Do they have the best talent? No. And I think we all feel that. But there's still a lot of optimism when it comes to this roster, how this team can play together. Little bits and pieces of practice we've seen just on social media. The energy looks really good. They're making shots, but looks really good. It just obviously we don't get the chance to see a whole practice yet, and I am looking forward. Obviously, you get to see the guys play in a week plus, but there's still a lot of talent there. There's still a lot of optimism in my mind that this could be a really special team. But they're going to have to play well together. They're going to have to get coached up. They're going to have to do some things and find out what the identity of this team is. Hubert and I talked about it, a while ago. Every year is different, and this is going to be way different because there's not a whole lot coming back. So it's going to be again. That's why we love to coach, because every year is different. It's a challenge. Nothing's ever the same. And I'd love to see how they take advantage of the strengths of this particular roster.
Yeah. Literally not much coming back. Seth Trimble, James Brown, and a 1 year removed Zayden Hyde. Like, that's it. And so every conversation we have right now is just looking at it on paper and trying to project how the pieces all fit. As Coach said, thankfully he's going to get to see that in action here in a little over a week's time. And then we'll get to have reports on that. And that's part of the joy of Coach being there at camp. So on paper, Coach, when you look at it right now, what do you foresee is the biggest strength or a couple of areas of strength for the team?
Yeah, I think the backcourt is still very questionable. There's so much question with the backcourt. Exactly, who's going to play where. I think the freshmen are very talented. There's a lot of questions there. I think the front court is as solid as it's been. I love Veesaar. I just think he's really, really good. And I think he's just going to get better. I think the more minutes he gets and the reps and him being the guy, I think I feel most comfortable with where they are at the 4 and the 5 right now, with the depth. So that's where I feel most comfortable. And I think that's rare. I think it takes special guards. I think everybody focuses on the guards. I do think our guards are very good. I'm excited to see how those guys play together.
Yeah. Yeah, the Caleb Wilson, Jarin Stevenson, Henri Veesaar trio, like, I mean, there's a lot of potential there.
And they're versatile. It's not like they're just not a bunch of back to the basket, just bangers. They're guys that can run. They're guys that can play above the rim, but they can also, finish from inside, outside, and mid range. I mean, I think we're all excited about Caleb Wilson. Let's be honest. He's just a special talent, and I think we're all very, very excited to see what he can do in Carolina blue.
Yeah, man. And there's opportunities for James Brown to step in more, for Zayden Hyde, and that they will add all of that great depth as well. So, Coach, you said right now for you, the question marks are in the backcourt. And there's a difference, though, between question marks and weaknesses. And so but they can be. So for now, is that the biggest hole, is the lack of certainty with where the backcourt's at?
Yeah, I just haven't seen Kai and Evans play enough. I've seen clips on them, and again, this is my job too. So we're playing games, and I'm not sitting there watching TV every night and getting a chance to see games. And I can go back and watch games and it's not quite the same.
Sure.
But to see him in a open gym setting, to see his leadership, to see his ability to make other people better, I'm excited to see who shows up to play against him. Because if it's Cole Anthony, or some of those guys that like to come up, and to see them go at it and to see how Kyan plays against him, that tells me a little bit about his mental makeup too, and how he can compete. Those are the type of things I'm looking forward to. I will have hopefully a whole lot more answers in 2 weeks than I have now.
Right.
Right now,
That's right.
Those are the type of questions that I have.
Yeah.
And to see those freshmen play in person too. See Isaiah Dennis and Derek Dixon play in person. Even Jaden Young, and seeing some of those guys that we know that can play. But we're excited about the size and the length and the shooting ability. I think that's all changed. And to see how Brad Frederick and those guys, how they all work in some of that stuff to the new system. That's what I'm really excited about seeing.
So it sounds like if we're zooming out and looking overall, you feel like the roster probably has the parts it needs to compete at a high, like national championship level. We'll see. Final Four level, we'll see. But the pieces, assuming Luka gets in, are there to compete at a very high level. Would you say that's where you're at, or am I putting it higher than you would go right now?
No, I think you're right, and it's not always the most talented team that wins. Phoenix, 2017 national championship. We go back to the hotel to celebrate with the guys after winning a national championship. I'm in the lobby with Hubert, and we're celebrating. And his first comment to me, he looked at me, he goes, "This team, because it wasn't the most talented team. It wasn't the most talented team Carolina's had. That in a lot of teams that didn't get there with more talented teams. But this, I feel, and again, it's all about feel right now. I'll see more soon. I feel like this team has guys who want to be at Carolina, want to be part of a team, want to be part of something bigger, and it's not about them.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the problem we had last year, is that it just didn't have some guys that were just totally bought in on being a Tar Heel. And I think just from what I feel, and again, we'll be around these guys, Montrose camp, those guys will all be at camp. You get a chance to rub elbows with them and kind of hang out with them a little bit, get a better feel for who they are as people. And I just feel like they have a bunch of Carolina kids, guys that really want to be at Carolina. And when you're all bought in like that, it's all about the winning. They don't care about the me. It's about the we. And I feel that's kind of how I feel about this team right now. It may change. In 10 days, I may feel different. But
no, but I think it's so helpful for us to hear your perceptions heading into it and see if the reality ends up matching those perceptions. I always like seeing both sides of that each summer, Coach, as we get there. So that said, now the fun begins, fighting for the spots, seeing these games. What are going to be the best positional battles for this team? And are there seemingly any spots that are already locked down? That's the conversations Coach and I are going to have coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about game time, there's nothing like the NBA playoffs. And right now, the NBA finals, as you listen to or watch this on Thursday, game 3, it happened last night. But the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds, it's the kind of atmosphere you have to experience live. And boy, have this year's matchups delivered in a big way. And if you want in on that, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app, they actually drop the closer you get to tip-off. So, with killer last-minute deals on panoramic seat and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. I love that I can see my exact view from my seat before I buy it, no surprises. And the app makes it ridiculously simple to get these tickets. Just 2 taps and you're done. And with Game Time Guarantee, you know that you're going to get the best deal. If you find a better price in the same section in a row, they're going to credit you 110% of the difference. Game 4 coming up tomorrow, Friday evening, 8:30 up there in Indy at Gainbridge. Weekend pricing, it jumps up. It was like $550 to get in the door last night, up to $831 right now for the cheapest ticket in the building. Coach is shaking his head behind the scenes. I wish you could see him. It's hilarious. So go ahead, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms do apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. This next conversation is almost one you often think more about for football teams as you head into fall camp. What are the position battles? Starting inside linebacker, left tackle, whatever it is. But I think they're always fun for basketball teams as well. Just that jockeying for minutes, being in the starting 5, being in the finishing 5, whatever it is. And so, Coach, I want to have a conversation in the second about who in your mind, and I'll answer it too, is the most locked into like, this dude is going to start. But before we get to that, I want to have a conversation about position battles. So as you project out and look at the 5 different positions on the floor, what position battle are you most excited about?
I think the battle that I'm most interested is the 4. It's with Caleb Wilson, Jarin Stevenson. And just because Jarin's experience versus Caleb's just high potential, unlimited potential. And I think if Jarin plays well, we could see possibility of playing both of them in a starting lineup, maybe moving Jarin to the 3 and going really big. But that's the battle I'm most excited about, to see those guys go at it, because those 2 guys, neither one of them is going to back down. Neither one is going to, make any concessions. They're going to fight every day. They're going to bring it every day. So that's the battle I wish, if I could be a fly on the wall and see those guys go at it every day, that's the matchup I'm looking at.
What's funny is from the second Jarin committed to come home to Chapel Hill, like that was one of the first phrases out of my mouth is I cannot wait to see those two dudes. I'm very excited for you to go see it in person here in a couple of weeks. And so we'll do that one. Another one I'm looking at is just because I'm assuming that once Luka gets to campus, he is going to be Carolina's starting three, but there's guys on both sides of it, like a couple shooting guards kind of going up and maybe some forwards kind of coming down. And so there's an interesting mix at the three between Luka, interestingly enough, Jarin Stevenson, who played the three at Alabama at times. And you got Jonathan Powell, you got Jaden Young, who, just all of that. And so I feel like the mix at the three is very intriguing to me as well. As you said, with thinking about the other two freshmen coming in and Derek Dixon and Isaiah Dennis, they've both got good positional size. And so in the right mix, they could see some time at the three. So it's just, I guess it's not as position battle-y like mano-y-mano, but I guess I would call it the position mix is intriguing to me to see that. Coach, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I was thinking about when I went to college, I had two seniors guards in front of me, so I knew it wasn't going to start. So, but I just go and you just play, you just compete every day, and then coach brings me in and says, "You caused a real problem," and I'm like, "What did I do? What problem?" They said, "Well, we're going to have to start three guards because you played so well. We're going to have to put you in the starting lineup." That's what I'm hoping to see. I'm hoping to see somebody just play so well. And so many kids say, "Well, you didn't give me a chance. If you just give me a chance and play me more," and I said, "We give you a chance every day."
That's right.
And play in such a way where we have to play. We have to put you on the court because you played so well. And that's what I'm looking for. Who's going to be that guy that just steps up and says, "And I'm just going to play so well that they're going to have to play me. They're going to have to start me." So I'd like to see it be a Jaden Young or a Jonathan Powell. One of those guys just step up and say, "Man, this is my opportunity. I'm going to take it. You only get that one shot, and it's going to be right now."
And I feel like we've heard Hubert, Coach Davis, use very similar language to that of like, you've got your opportunities every day. You show up, you do what we're asking you to do, and you're going to force our hand and good, right? Like we need those minutes, right? Okay, Coach, let's look at the other side of this. For where things are at right now, who do you feel is the most like guaranteed, no duh, this dude's in the starting lineup?
To me, it's Veesaar right now. I don't think he has a whole lot of competition at that position. The other thing I look at is I do think just because of Carolina and the way that they've respected returning guys, Seth's got to start early, I think. And I think
that's a great way to say that. Yes.
They're going to he's got to earn it, but I don't think he can just dog it all summer and be able to be there. But I think the respect, and then he'll have to keep it. He'll have to earn, that time to continue. But I do think he's next in line. I think that Evans is probably the best point guard right now. So those are the other ones. But I just think Veesaar's got to start. I don't think anybody's even to push him right now. And he's pushed, by the opportunity to play ball once he's gone and how much money he can make. So I think he has plenty of motivation, but I don't think anybody will push him for a starting spot early in the year.
Yeah, I think it is those three guys, as you said, in some order, but it is Veesaar almost because of, if I put it in political terms, he's running unopposed, right? Is maybe a fair way to say that. I think if Van Allen Lubin wasn't in Raleigh, we might say that a little bit differently. I think Veesaar would win out over Van Allen, Coach. But I do think that without Van Allen on the roster, the guy in line to start at the 5 is maybe James Brown. I think they would probably go a different direction or whatever, but it's just he doesn't have much pushing him. And then behind that, I like how you ordered and organized that, saying at least early Seth is almost like a guarantee to start. And then with Kai and Evans, there's other guys that will have some point guard type skills, maybe Seth himself a little bit. Obviously in spurts, we've seen him and will continue to do so. And then, we'll see with the other two freshman guys, what level of that they bring in as well. And so Coach just got kicked out of the chat there. Hopefully he'll be able to hop back in. Sometimes the internet happens. This is podcasting. He's texting me behind the scenes. So I'm texting him right now. But yeah, I think Evans and Trimble are the two next safest. In what order? That's an interesting question. I think some of that depends on what happens at the 3. If that's Luka, the guaranteed starter there, what happens then with Jonathan Powell? What happens with the 2 freshmen? And what happens with Jaden Young? And so there's that mix too. We had just talked about it with the 3, but there is an interesting mix at the 2 of a bunch of potential ways Carolina could go. So, Coach, I just kind of kept talking there about the same conversation we were having, and Coach is back in. I was telling everybody what was happening in real time. I was like, Coach and I are texting. He just got kicked out. We're going to get him back in. So anyway, Coach, yes, I think ultimately Veesaar has to be the answer to that question. And there's that. Okay, that's some fun personnel and roster conversations. Now we want to look at the news that the NCAA approved on Tuesday of this week with a plan to help speed up end of game scenarios and reviews. The question is it enough? Is it going to help? I don't know. We'll talk about it. I love for Coach to put on his coach's hat and give us his thoughts. We'll do that in just a second. On Tuesday of this week, the NCAA Playing Rules Oversight Panel approved changes to kind of, as they said it, help game flow. There were a whole bunch of rules that were introduced, but the 2 that to me are the most consequential are the introduction of a coach's challenge and the introduction, and this was talked about a lot during the season last year, but of the continuation rule when it comes to and one situations. Coach, let's start with the coach's challenge, because that's the one that the NCAA is thinking is going to help speed up end of game situations. Let me just read some from the NCAA's press release, and then would love to get your response to this. Changes include a coach's challenge at any point in a game to review out-of-bounds calls, basket interference / goaltending, and whether a secondary defender was in the restricted area arc. Under the coach's challenge rule, teams must have a timeout to request an instant replay review challenge. Somewhere Roy Williams is smiling. If the instant replay review challenge, teams will be allowed to have one additional video review challenge for the rest of the game, including overtime. If the first video review challenge is unsuccessful, the team loses the ability to challenge for the rest of the game. And Coach, I think the critical thing here that it says a paragraph later, and hear this loud and clear, everyone, officials cannot conduct video review on out of bounds calls unless through a coach's challenge. Coach, your response to all of this?
I'm more old school. I don't want the game to change. I like the game the way it is. And I see things changing that don't need to be changed. I finally think this is the time to do something good. So I do like this. I do like that the coaches get a challenge. I do like that it's limited. It's not like the NBA where you get to challenge a foul call, or, it's very limited in what you can do. You have to have timeout. So now people, criticize Coach Williams all those years for saving timeouts, and they do the same with Hubert. There's a good reason to save them now to the end. But I do think there's, especially when it comes to goaltending calls or charge, on the charge line, those are calls that can change a game. And to be able to go back and say that, hey, at least we get an opportunity to challenge that, I think is a good thing. It also means you have to have somebody on your staff sitting there ready, with video to be able to, and they're going to be looking at that one person saying, hey, you got to be right or wrong about it, just like they do in Major League Baseball.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Got to have somebody ready to do that. But I do think it's a good thing. The continuation thing, I think, is a disaster. I just think that it's gonna be a problem. I really do. Now, when you teach your kids, okay, you want to make sure that this guy doesn't get an and one, the fouls are going to be harder. You're going to be more worried about flagrant fouls. You're going to be worried about injuries. I just think now, you got to make sure that not only do you foul, but you foul continuous through the movement, so they can't at the last second throw one up. So I don't like it. I don't think we should be the NBA. I like the way the college game is different. I know what's coming down the line is going to be coming. We're going to end up in quarters. Right now, we're the only schools out there right now shooting 1-and-1 and playing in halves. And I like it. That's all I've ever known. 34 years of coaching, that's all I've ever known. So I don't want to see it go to quarters. I don't want to see, the 1-and-1 go away. I think that gives you an advantage for the the team that's behind to be able to come back, and the better teams that make free throws should be rewarded for it. So I don't want to see those things go away, but I see that coming down probably in the next 3 or 4 years.
I like your points there. I think smart ways to do things similar to the NBA, like you said, with the coaches challenge, taking on what the NBA has done there. But there's some other things where I like keeping these lines of demarcation. I like the halves. I just like the different strategy it brings. I like the way the and one situations have been. If it's on the ground, you don't get the pivot, you don't get the extra step. We don't get what we're now calling foul merchants, like we have with SGA for the Thunder, right? Or James Harden has been famous for doing. And so, you talked about those various angles. One that occurred to me is, how is that going to change fouling up three late in the game, as like, or what kind of continuation is allowed there? I'm guessing, Coach, that there are going to be some referees that are going to be taken in, are going to fall victim and prey to some of the actions of guys. So I'm with you. I don't like the continuation thing. Coach, here's another coaching angle, going back to the challenge. So literally the most challenges, even if you get it right, the most you can have is 2. Do you like that, or do you wish the phrase I'm going to use is make it, take it, right? Like, do you wish, like, if I get them right, could I just have basically infinite correct challenges, or do you like that it's limited to at most 2?
Yeah, I do like that it's limited, because it could, if you're, I mean, you could do it all game long, and there's officials, especially at our level, we get the guys going up to the next level, we get the guys coming down, so we don't necessarily have the best group, so it'd make it hard. They're working with the very best officials out there, so they won't have as many mistakes. Obviously, those guys are the best, and I will say that. But I think 2 is a good limit. Then you're not challenging everything, and the players want to challenge everything. And every time they think, "Oh, I didn't foul it," and we don't need to do that all the time. So let's focus on it, and then the coaches have to be wise about what's most important. Is this a high risk,
high
leverage
reward? Yep.
Or we need to just wait till that time it goes. But I don't think you'll see coaches using it in the first half. I don't think you'll see them using it, and they'll save them until it's really crucial times. So I don't think it's going to be as big a deal during the game. It will change things late. And since the officials can't use it, we won't see going to the monitor 4 times in the last 30 seconds very often, at least. So I think overall it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, because there are still, and I'm not going to unpack it all just because there's a bunch of it. There are still things, obviously, that refs can initiate. But I do agree with the NCAA's assessment that it really is out of bounds calls that take the most time. And so I'm curious to see ultimately if this does work. And I mean, we're going to see it early and often. There's going to be a late game play, and a team has already burned their challenge or lost or whatever. They're going to want to review, and it ain't going to happen, and they're going to be upset, but that's going to be the nature of it. Coach, ultimately for you, you can answer this as a coach, or you can answer it as a college basketball fan. I'll let you pick. Do you prefer, do you care more that we get it right, or that we keep the game flowing? What matters more to you?
As a coach, I want to get it right. As a fan, let's keep the flow going. But
Okay.
yeah, you do want to get it right, especially if it's a crucial time, and you want to make sure that it's the right call. And there is a part of a human element to it, and that's part of it. I don't look forward to the robo officials, umpires at Major League Baseball that's coming down. I think human error has got to be part of that.
No.
And maybe the fact that I have a friend who's a Major League umpire, and that I kind of root for them a little bit too. But
That's right.
I do think that there's a human element, but when it's late in the game and it's clearly off, the other team and the officials don't see it, or they don't have a good angle, to be able to go back and get it right, I think is the right thing, even if it does take a little bit of time. But I don't want it to be, again, 4 or 5 times in one game and it just drags on. It does take the flow out of it. So as a fan, I just want to see the game go. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah. It's going to mean the officials are going to have to be doing a better job of like huddling up when necessary to like overturn calls without the benefit of video replay. And it's like, well, how, we so often say now, like, how did we do life before cell phones? And it's the same thing. Like, how did we adjudicate basketball games before video? Well, we figured it out. And sometimes plays were like, if we went back, Christian Laettner probably would have been thrown out of the game before he had the chance to hit that shot back in 91, because video replay would have seen him stomp on a dude's chest, Coach. But we somehow survived, and I think we will again. Anything else on the rules stuff before we get out of here today?
I hope they just start leaving the game alone. I know they have a committee. I know they meet every year, and they try to come up with, what the emphasis are for this year, that year. But I just want to see the game played the way it's been. I just don't want to see changes. We love the game. We love the way it is. Let's just play it the way it has been.
Yeah, that's good. That's well said. And yes, there are other rules. We mainly talked today about the coaches challenge and the continuation stuff, but you should go read the NCAA's press release, because there are a few other things that came out. For example, now refs can have some I can't think of the word I'm looking for, Coach, but some leeway to determine intent on like kicks to the groin, which were automatic F2s before, like happened to JT Toppin from Texas Tech last year. And now referees can adjudicate intent and maybe back that off to a F1 if it's accidental or something like that. So anyway, check that out. Great stuff. All right. Next week, you guys, late next week, Coach will be headed off to camp. So next week, our show with Coach Rob will be a little bit of a preview of what he's looking for. And then after that, we're going to be able to get the actual eyeballs on it, firsthand eyewitness account, the gospel according to Coach Rob. And so we'll get that coming up. Speaking of which, let's plug one more time today, Carolina Basketball School, Coach Rob's great book on the history of Carolina basketball camp. Thanks so much for being with us today, you all. If you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, do that right now so you don't miss a second. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to see you there. That link is in the show notes. Absolutely free to join. And if you want to go deeper with the show, Locked On Tar Heels Insider, that link is in the notes as well. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be back again tomorrow to wrap the week, but until then, peace.